Oh, well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Jeremy Makes. My name is Jeremy. It's been about exactly a week. Actually, it's been exactly a week. A little bit's gone on since then. Not much at all, but the assembly of the Mk2S up to the Mk3 now S. Finished the extruder upgrade last week. I'm going to continue on this week with the next steps. Sorry if anybody does happen to log on, not that anybody is, but the live chat's not working for right now for some reason. The restream chat wants to upgrade and it doesn't upgrade, and the website's not working, but it's streaming the video, so that's all that's important. So I do have both chat windows open here on another monitor, just in case anybody does happen to log in, and I can see their chat over on the other monitor. But maybe Restream will decide to finish uploading or downloading its update sometime here soon. I don't know. It's been stuck 78% for some time now. That's why it took me so long to come live. But anyway, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So as you can see, we got the printer right here. Let me go ahead and get over here. Here we go. So got the printer right here. So we got the Mk3S assembly now done for the extruder. As you can see on the screen, we're left off exactly where we were last time with the last step of the E-axis. We're going to move on to Chapter 6, the LCD assembly. Fairly easy assembly here, but we're going to go ahead and get things rolling. So let me just put this out of the way for just a minute. Real quick. And we're probably going to need that back sooner rather than later, but just wanted to clear off some desk space here. So first step's going to be we need to prepare the LCD parts. Already got most of this done because I just didn't take it apart last time. So here you can see we've got the LCD parts. So we've got our LCD screen. We've got the cables I never unplugged, and we have the front plates. The front plate's still being reused from the Mk2S. What is new is the brackets, because of course we've got the extruded aluminum T-slots, replacing the threaded rods from the Mk2S, and these just slide right on, but we'll go through that in just a second. I just slid them on now because I had such problems with them over on the Mk3 build. So let's scroll on down, checking the LCD cables. Before you start, please ensure these cables are plugged in the correct order. Basically, you want to make sure that the one with the, and you can't really see there, but maybe I can show on the front there. The band you can see in the camera now, that's the 2-band wire, and then the one you can't see the wire. There's a band, you just can't see it once it's plugged in. And then once you fold the cables down, you can't see those black permanent marker marks, so they make it really easy to make sure that you're putting it in correctly. So basically the double banded one needs to be on the side with the LCD, excuse me, the SD card slot, and that's where my double band is, and then the single band one goes away from it, and then those bands do go down. If you look at the picture there, you'll see the green PCB for the actual LCD display is pointing up in that picture. So you want to make sure you have those in the correct orientation. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. With the green portion, let me switch to the other overhead there. Oh, did the restream finally decide to come up? Hold on. I don't think it did. Nope. Yep, and it's not done downloading yet. It's still at 78%. Stupid. It's streaming video, not downloading. Anyway, so now we want to make sure the green PCB is down towards us. And then these pieces just slide right on really easily. Let me get to the next picture here. There we go. And then we want to put the other side on, and there's a difference. This one here does have the tab off to the side. That's basically, I think, to support, to give you some clearance for the SD card, basically, so you don't accidentally slide the SD card in to an empty slot and lose the SD card into the bottom of the printer, which it would just pop right out of the bottom, but it's not. It's just nice to have that extra little piece there. So anyway, Ensure that the correct orientation of the parts of the LCD controller. So as you can see in my hand, exactly like I have in the picture. And then assembling the LCD cover. And I press the LCD cover with the LCD support into the LCD cover, blah, 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 blah. Adjust position of the supports if needed. Press it as deep as it can go. Yeah, there's a little tab that they have circled in green. You can see in the overhead picture right there. That little tab is going to hold the what will become the bottom of the LCD. So I want to make sure that my rotary knob is in the correct position. Basically, it just kind of slides into place. You want to make sure that your supports are in the right spot. There are a couple screws that are going to go in a second. And that just kind of slides where the green PCB is in first, and then kind of just gently press until you get the display board behind that tab. Takes a tiny bit of force, not much. You can kind of move these little legs around. So now we've got our display remounted, and now we're going to need adjust position, press and D. Control must click in another support. Yep. Using the 2.5mm Allen key and two M3x10 screws, secure the LCD controller in place. So we need two M3x10. There's two M3x10, and we're going to need our Allen wrench here. And then there's just two holes. You can see here, right where the supports come to be flush with what will be the bottom, and we're just screwing into plastic here, so it's not too difficult. Nothing to mount. Doesn't need to be super tight, but it needs to be tight enough to keep the board from popping in and out. You will be pressing a button, either the rotary knob or the cancel button on the outside, so you really don't want it to not be pressed, the buttons to not be pressed whenever you press them, but because the board pops out of its seat where it's seated. So let's see. And actually, I was just thinking about it. This doesn't get mounted to extruded aluminum. This gets mounted to the front plate. I forgot that it's not all the way around extruded aluminum. It's the front plate there. So there you go. So we got those M3. I didn't even tighten them that much, just enough to where now I can press the rotary knob in. There's no movement of the LCD screen, and then press the cancel button. There's no movement of the LCD screen. So now we need to place four M3 square nuts. So I'm just going to use my box of holding here, additional hardware from the disassembly of the original Mk2S. Instead of digging through packages to try to figure out which one's which, those just get slid right into place there. Real simple and easy. Slide right in. There we go. Got it. So, oh wait, restream chat get done. Oh, did not succeed. Let's just check my network connection. Definitely not my network connection because I am streaming. I think it's Restream's servers. Anyway, so now we've got that taken care of. Now we're going to need to bring back our printer. So you can see attention in case you haven't assembled the anti-vibration feet yet. The front part of the printer will be resting on the mounted LCD. Apply the feet now, or be very careful as you might damage the LCD holder. For assembly, head back to chapter 2, which I already got the feet on there, so great. But we're going to pop in 4 M3x10 screws, and then attach through those through the printer part, through the plate, through the printer part, and then into the square nuts that we just attached. So Let's see if I've got any M3 times 10 screws in here. Nope, none in there. No, I've got some in here though. Yep, there's a bunch. So I need 4 of those. 1, 2, 4. Slide those over there. Slide this over here. We're going to bring our printer back in. Make sure wires don't get kinked or pinched or anything. So real easy. These just slide right into here. Careful when you're moving this around the square nuts. If you want to fall out. Actually, I think I just lost one. There we go. Oh, luckily, I've got extra. Good point to note there. Be very careful when you're moving that around. The square nuts want to slide out completely. So just very carefully. I know I just heard it. Did you see it on camera? There it is. All 4 are still in there. That's where that one went. It probably fell into the housing itself. So now we're just going to try and carefully get these screws started in their homes so those nuts don't want to fall out anymore. Go. Alright. Don't know why I couldn't get this other side lined up. So, there you go. Alright, all 3 screws are now started. Again, this doesn't need to be super tight. Tight enough to where it's not going to vibrate, make any noise. Not so tight that you're going to break any of the plastic pieces. Alright, that's pretty tight on there. And then the last thing it wants us to do is to put the LCD knob on there. Which, actually, I don't remember where I put it. Not a big deal. I'll find it later. You can use it without the LCD knob. The L knob just makes it easier, so we're just going to leave it off for right now. So that's that chapter. That was really easy. It tells us to have some Habro gummy bears, so I will indeed follow directions. I have a couple. I don't think I'll have 5. That stuff really doesn't deserve 5, but hey. So actually, I wonder. I have another box over here. Give me 1 sec. Nope, not over there. Not a big deal. Again, I'll find it, and if not, I'll use the printer to print one, or the other printer to print one. So, we've got it done. We want to check the final look to make sure it all looks right. It does. Just missing the knob. And then, now it says in step 12 that we're moving on to different power supply unit types. There are 2 different types of power supply units with different mounting points. Make sure you select the correct chapter. New PSU with black casing in blue, and then old PSU with silver casing. I did not realize they had a new power supply. That's interesting. I'm really curious. You know what? Let's go find out real quick. I've not seen that yet. No, duh. It's not what I wanted. Open a new tab. I want to see what it looks like. Zoom down through all this. So that's interesting. That's new power supply unit. Has everything integrated in to the metal housing. So they just got a new supplier. And it looks like they want you to put a badge on there. The market is Prusa. So anyway, all right, let's go back because that's not the one I have, I don't believe. Let's find out actually. Nope, yep. All right, so here we go. So we're confirming that we have the older style power supply unit with the printed part down here and the from Prusa factory installed power port and power plug. This is, as I learned in the Mk3 build, this is a what's the word I'm looking for? Automatic switching. You do not have to switch it between your different mainline inputs as you would on some older models or some other models of power supplies. So let's move up to the old one. Never liked that old one. So we do have that one, but we don't need this as of quite yet because we're going to be doing heat. So we've got all of our tools that we need, but now we need to get our heat bed, cabling, and all of the nuts and bolts and screws we need for that. So let's go down here. And we do not need this steel sheet. We just need, slide this up and out of the way a little bit here. Just need our heat bed and heat bed here. Thermosistor already pre-attached. And then we need this. We need all of our pretty hardware and cabling. So here's our cabling here. Our hardware. And there's the, so this is the double-sided cable, heat bed cable cover that they provide. I'm actually not going to use it because I have a custom printed one. Somewhere. There it is. This is a custom printed one that I did on the other kit. It's printed out of black Prusa PETG. Brings it out at a 45-degree angle so that the cables run shallower so it doesn't stick out the back as much, but still gives you your full range of motion. I believe that's available on Thingiverse. If I would have thought about it, I put the link in the description. I'll try and do it afterwards. But credit to that maker. Absolutely not something I would take credit for at all. M3x10 screws. So M3x10 screw, we need 2. Go M3 3.299 0.8 washer times 2. So guessing it's the only washers in here. Yes, it is. So we need 2 of those. Where's the other washer? Just had it. There it is. And then we need 2 M3 nylon lock nuts. There's 1. And where's the other one? is. And there's the other one. Got it. All right. So now it says it's very important to connect the power cable correctly before you start the assembly. Have a look at the pins. The one on the left with the ground sign or wording must be connected to the black wire. So we're going to flip R, and you can actually see in the overhead camera there all of the magnets that are embedded into this PCB to hold down the spring steel sheet. I'm pretty sure there's probably one underneath here too. You want to be very careful if you've got a pacemaker or any metallic implants or neurostimulators in your body when doing an assembly of this. You don't want to be near this at all because of the magnets. Obviously, if you have any of that, caution, get somebody else to do it for you. But yeah, we're going to move on now. So step 3, heat bed assembly. So we want to make sure we put the black wire to the ground. So mine's marked ground, and then VCC, voltage current, blah, blah, blah. We want to put one of the M3x10 with one of the washers. And on this cable here, you see according to the picture, there's 2 different sides. You've got the side with the rounded connectors, and you've got the side with the forked connectors, if you can see there. So round, forked. We want the round side. We've got technically 2 black wires, but one of them's got a red stripe on it, or you could call it a red wire with a black stripe. I don't know which way it's supposed to be, but we want the all black wire. That's going to be our ground. Putting a washer on one of the M3x10 screws, and then they have it connected to where, if you've never done this before, the connectors here have a step to them, so they're not flat. You can see it's got, a step, and they have it so that it's upside down, so that'd be the top where we put the bolt through, and the step down section is going to be the bottom, so it kind of rests against the edge of the board and remains as even with the board as with the PCB as possible. So now we've got that through. We're going to use our nylon lock nut. Screw that on like that, and then we can use a pair of, actually I think, oh, wrong size. For sake of time, I'm not going to switch out my bit driver for the correct size bit. It's not going to save that much time doing it that way. So, oh wait, there's Restream. I think Restream just popped up. So if I happen to do get anybody live, I probably will be able to, you guys will be able to chat, hopefully. It's not saying it's live on the video yet. Why are you having such problems focusing? Focus, focus, focus. Oh, it's the shininess to this. Yeah, that's what it is. Autofocus doesn't like shiny. So I'm just gonna screw this in. Oh, come on. Focus, focus, focus. Oh, the joys of live streams. Wouldn't have it any other way. Maybe I need to go further away. Yeah. Nope, that's very well. You don't want to over tighten it, so hold the screw and carefully turn the heat bed upside down. Place the M3x10 nut on it and tighten it slightly. Turn the heat bed back. Using pliers and Allen key, tighten the screw. We need to adjust the cable position in the next step if you're going to tighten the screw too firmly. So I didn't tighten it all the way. Yes, we will adjust it here in a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the red wire. Heat bed cable assembly part 3. So now we've got our black with red stripe or red with black stripe. Another M3x10 screw with a washer on it. Going into the connector, and then we're going to put the nylon lock nut on. And now we're going to carefully grab that nut with our needle nose pliers. Use our Allen wrench here. Tighten this down. Again, don't want to tighten it down all the way yet. Readjust that a little bit. That should be tight enough for right now. All right, so leave that right over there. The cable cover, which will be applied later, requires the connectors to be slightly inclined towards each other. Press them gently, but leave a gap between them. So mine's gonna be a little different than that. But you can see they kind of have them pushed into each other. And the design of your heat bed might be slightly different from the last picture. Then you can tighten both screws. So because mine is a little different, we are going to go prepare the heat bed. We need the heat bed with the wires now attached. We need M3 nuts, M3 screws, heat bed cable cover. It talks about the heat bed cable cover here. In case the cover is fixed by screws, not soldered, the heat bed cable cover slightly differs. So we want to make sure we run the thermistor wire as well through this same cover here. So what I'm going to do is kind of just, I guess the term would be wing it, right? Because I have a different cable cover. So as you can see here, mine is completely different than what was pictured right there in that picture there, because theirs goes straight out. This one's going to go out and to the right at 45 degrees, loops back around, keeps the cables nice and tight without losing any of our range of motion. So what I'm going to have to do is actually to loosen these up just a tiny bit. This is going to be the fun part. I did tighten that just a little too much. Alright. Okay, there we go. Then get these twisted off to the side as best as possible. So what I have to do now is kind of bend them down a little bit because they were sticking up from the board. And then make sure these wires are route correctly through there. There we go. That'll route them correctly. So now I can go ahead and tighten these down. You don't want them to be loose. Any electrical connections, you don't want to have them loose. They cause shorts whenever they're loose. If there's any type of movement between the connection of the power cables to the pads there, any short will cause some unnecessary wear and tear on the electronic parts, could cause surges through the system, so on and so forth. So you want to be very careful, make sure that you have that at least tight. Okay, so now I'm going to need an M3 times 10 screw, I guarantee, and then probably just a regular nut. Yeah. So this first one doesn't have a partner in the other side piece. This is just to hold the top cover onto the PCB. Go ahead and get that on there. Yep. Get that nut in its home. Need that. I need just a regular nut. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. So I don't have any regular nuts in that one, but I will have them in this bag. The other connector type. The other cover, sorry, for the original cover. going to use this M3x10 to secure this top cover to its home. Go. So it's not fitting in there quite as well as I would like it. This might not be the right type of cable cover, if I remember correctly. Now that I'm thinking about it, when I downloaded this, the creator of this cover talked about he had to take a pair of pliers and gently bend like that, the black ground wire. We do want to make sure, as per the instructions, that we are being very careful with the thermistor wire. You want to make sure that it goes between the bolts so there's not as much stress on it. And then it goes between the wires, and then we're wrapping on the wires. So basically what it's talking about is through those two bolts there, and then we can wrap it around power wires to kind of give it a home. You want to leave a little bit of slack in the cable. You don't want this cable to be pulled on at all. It'll pull it right out of its tape here. So make sure to leave a little bit of slack there. Go. And then now I should be able to, with two more M3x10 screws and two more standard M3 nuts. Should be able to get this rest of this cover on there. Something real quick. Why it don't want to work? Right, so we got that. Now this is the rest of the cover get installed. First we want to do, sorry, skipping ahead. Not reading the instructions. So now we want to do our cable wrap. So I've got the textile sleeve cable wrap. The first wrap is ready. Let's look at that from the heat bed. Start by 2 centimeters. So where is the? There it is. Should be in this package right here. Yep. And it's the thicker. Perfect. Over there. So I guess when they cut these, they heat up the ends, so the ends usually want to stick. I just like to rub my finger all the way through to make sure that everything's clear inside. There we go. So we're going to start a few centimeters or an inch or two of the wire. Then this needs to get fixed inside of this cover, so we want to make sure that we are wrapping it fairly tight, because it needs to go inside the cover printed part so that it gets nice and secured in there. I should have go ahead and put these nuts in, so I'll go ahead and do that now. There's nice little homes for the nuts here and here. Go. Textile sleeve is inside of the cover, so I'm going to put the underneath portion of the cover on. Get these M3x10 screws started in their homes. Started. This one started. go. Yeah, that worked perfectly fine. I'm going to grab this real quick though and tighten it up a little bit more. That one doesn't want to do its job. Where did the other one go? There it is. That's not it. Sorry. Trying to find the regular Allen key. There it is. Again, I don't know if it's that bit or if it's the screws, but it seems to be once the tension on that the screws get a little bit too tough, it starts to want to slip. I'm going to blame the bit. So here we go. So now that we've got that, I went ahead and just did all the way to step 10. Make sure the thermistor cable is in the middle, going through the cutout of the printed part. Otherwise, you'll pinch and possibly break it. Insert 2M 3x10. Tighten them slightly. Don't tighten the screw completely on one side and then the other side of the picture. So now we finished wrapping the cable. And when this is done, we're going to twist the sleeve, not the cable inside. So basically, we want to now get the cable fed into the sleeve the rest of the way. I don't know why my box of holding is still sitting there. I just put the wrong cable on here. Hold on. Gotta go back a minute. Yeah, because that's going to have one of the thin ones. I'm going to go back here. So textile sleeve 6 times 300 millimeters. Where did my... Got to find my tape measure. I want to measure this sleeve because there are... Here, I'll show you what I'm struggling with here for a sec. So, last things in our package here are these thinner textile sleeves, and there's nothing else left in this package whatsoever. So all that was left in there was this thicker one and that one. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking back at my other printer back there. One of these thin ones is for the X-axis motor. Yeah, the X-axis motor. And actually not 100% sure what the other one's for. It's the Y-axis, unless it goes on the Y-axis while it's getting attached. I haven't gone through the instructions yet. So I don't understand why that would be the one for the heat bed. I'm trying to find my millimeter tape measure, which I actually think might be upstairs. Darn it. Because this is entirely too long for the heat bed cables. I really don't want to have to go back and uninstall this, so I'd rather take the extra time right now, figure out if I screwed it up, which is probably the case, you know, or if I'm just crazy and not doing this right. Maybe go forward to the instructions here for a sec. Sorry, I'm yawning. Apologize. Interesting. Because I guess these are long enough. Let me do this real quick. I'm gonna go back. Go back and E-axis assembly. Let's find the wrap on this one. Oh yeah, nope, I'm crazy. Okay. So glad I double checked, because it is one of the smaller ones. The assembly of that. And now we're going to do that. So what it is that I was crazy. So it's not the thicker one, it is the thinner one. So I do need to undo these two. Go ahead and just use this one here. Trying to be careful with this. I did want to use it on this, but then the camera didn't want to focus things. See, every time I bring that into play, the camera doesn't want to focus. But now that I have to do this, really should get a mat for this table, but too late for that. All right, so now we can take that off of there. Take this cable out of this sleeve. So there you go. So this is that thicker sleeve that I was talking about. And then we have the thinner sleeves here. This is the sleeve that I do need for the heat bed, which is what I didn't think was the case. And there's only one size of this. They're both the same length. So I'm going to put these two out of the way. And I'm going to get this back into... It actually might make it a little bit easier for installing it inside the cover. All right. So we're just going to backtrack a little bit and get the get to the instruction section here. Get a couple inches of it into the sleeve. Smaller one's a little bit harder to work with. Getting these bigger cables into this smaller diameter sleeve. Making sure that the thermistor cable's got a little bit of slack going through the middle. Gotta get this tucked into the cover here a little bit. Alright, so now we can get the bottom side of the cover back on. Get these screws started. Okay, looks like that sleeve's all the way in, all the way around. Tighten those down enough to hold the sleeve into place. And there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and tuck in the wire into the sleeve the rest of the way. Sorry, got a little quiet there. Tucking in these wires into this sleeve is a little bit more challenging than I was anticipating. The bigger sleeve was way easier. But hey. it'll look nice once we're done. Now that I'm thinking back, I do remember this. Remember when I did the Mk3 build? It was an old kit, so it still came with the spiral wrap. So I bought textile sleeve that wasn't quite like this, of the 2 different diameters, and I do remember now, or I'm starting to remember now, that it was the smaller diameter I went around this heat bed cabling. Come on. Trying to use a either one of these Allen wrenches or an Allen driver to get this tucked in easier, but it's not really making it any easier. Just get it into one side. I could use one of those keys to get it down in there the rest of the way. This is embarrassing. This is just taking way too long to do. Here we go. Come on. Get in there. Get in your new home. There we go. All right. And then we've already got that on there and finalizing the wrap. Now we're finished wrapping the cables in the textile sleeve. When done, slightly twist the sleeve, not the cables inside. The sleeve will evenly wrap all around the cable bundle. Basically, what it's telling us to do is it's telling us to grab the cables because we don't want to twist the cables. But then you want to twist the cable wrap around the cables. That way we make sure that it's all evenly wrapped around all of these cables here, which I feel confident it is. Have the fabric the other way. Switch that up then. Just realize that the fabric on the beginning of the cable near the heat bed is one over the other the different way. So I can use my Allen key here to flip that around. There we go. There we go. All right. So now we've got that. We don't want that to go too far because we're about to mount it to the printer. So let me reorganize just slightly here for a sec. So we need to prepare the heat bed screws and spacers. So basically what's in the rest of this kit of hardware. Man, why is that thing just giving me all kinds of headaches with focusing? Pour the rest of them out. Most of it's going to be what I need here. So we need 9 spacers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on. 8 and 9. And then we need the M3 times 14B screws times 9, and the N3 times, for the following steps, please prepare M3 times 14B screw, 9 of them, and an M3 times 12B screw, 9 of them. We also need 9 of the 6x6x3T spacers. So basically it's the only screws in this pack that are not going to be square head. They're going to be these tapered heads that you see. Well, there it is, right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then these are the rest of our, what we can use here. And the rest of these are the, I don't know why it's 14 or 12B screws. I don't understand why there's two different sizes listed on there. Because the only rest of these are the M3 times 10 that I stole out of my old hardware kit instead of pulling it out of that bag. So anyway, so now we move on. We're mounting it to part 1. So we want to push the X carriage up to the front and place the heat bed behind. Locate the hole in the center of the Y carriage. Place one spacer on top of that hole. The exact position of the spacer will be just in the next step. So basically what it's got us doing, we're going to grab our printer here, being as careful as we can with all of our wiring now getting attached, that none of it gets pinched or damaged while moving this around. Slowly move the bed forward here, all the way forward. And then, according to the picture there, we're going to take our heat bed. And the way that it goes is just like this with our recently installed cable cover. Back left. And we're going to put it on the frame back behind the carriage. Just gently place it down. Magnets grabbed onto that there. So we put this spacer right in the middle right there. And now push the Allen key through the middle hole on the heat bed and place it above the spacer. Use the Allen key to align all the parts. After the alignment, use the M3S 14B screw instead. Tighten the screw just slightly. So basically we want to take one of our Allen keys that fits through the spacer and the hole down there without messing up the threads. There we go. And what this allows us to do is to put it through this hole here. Now we can kind of eyeball it through the spacer. Spacers! Just like Ivan says. And then kind of feel around until we get it in the hole. Now we've got that aligned in there. Go ahead and grab one of our M3 12B/14B screws. Gently place it in place of the Allen key after removing the Allen key, of course. Oh, and I need a different bit, so I am going to grab. Just try to get that started by hand. I need the next smallest bit here. There we go. And we don't want to tighten it all the way down, just enough to hold it gently into place. So now we're going to move to the right side of the heat bed. Place another one of the spacers with our pliers. This is where you got to start getting really careful. Those magnets like to grab onto these things, so I do like to have one of the screws at hand. So once I get visibly in the right spot, I can get the screw through there. And then look underneath and make sure that I'm aligned. There we go. Just get that threaded in there. Some carriage. There's one thread for some reason. Can't tell if I'm aligned with the hole. Oh, I'm going to do the Allen key method again, but hey, I got it. You know what? The Allen key method, because it's not wanting to align right. There we go. So that's aligned right. You can see that it's through there, through the spacer. screws down and through. If you feel like it's not threading correctly, immediately back it out. You don't want to screw up the threads on the carriage. Be a very hard fix. I am not having any luck here. There we go. Now it's threaded. It should not be difficult at all to tighten the screw down. You should feel it grab, but there should be no resistance whatsoever. And then after the alignment, insert screw. So now we're going to use pliers, insert spacers, and screw into the remaining holes. Don't fully tighten the screws. After all screws are in place, tighten them in the following order. So there's got a specific order to tighten them in. So I'm going to use the Allen key and spacer method to do the left side. There we go. Go ahead and grab my screw. Put it down through the spacer. Get it started. Just get that down just enough to get it to be snug. And then I'm going to do the back one, middle. I think it might be better doing this almost left-handed. Don't forget that there's magnets underneath here, so you could run into a situation where the magnet wants to grab a hold of the spacer. Even using the Allen key method. Let me manually move the Z-axis or the X-axis up on the Z-axis so that I can get my driver in there all the way. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to use the same method for the front middle. There we go. That one hits the LCD housing a little bit, so the Allen key does not go all the way through, as per the rest of the other ones have so far. Go. And then I'm going to get the back left one in. I think this is where I started to have the biggest problems, because there's magnets right next to these mounting holes. So if you're not quick with putting the screw in, it will steal the spacer from where you just put it. Right, I'm going to do the bottom right one. The front right one, sorry, front right one, to continue with the correct terminology I've been using, or the terminology I've been using. Now I'm going to do the back right one, so you can kind of hear the magnets want to grab that spacer. I don't know, his accent and Ivan's accent and the way he says things, it just sticks in your head. go. Got that in there. Let's see if I can. There we go. Almost there. Again, you don't want to tighten these all the way, just enough to where it's snug. And then the front left one is our final spacer. Get that put in there. All right. So now it's got specific instructions on how to tighten these in a specific order. So the first thing after you tighten all the screws in place, tighten them in the following order. So you want to start with the center screw. So get this one down and tight. There we go. Tight. And then we want to do the first 4 screw edges. So I'm going to kind of just go in a clockwise, starting at the left. And get this one tightened down. Just tight. You can't really over tighten it. It goes, and then the back, top, tight. And then the right middle, tight, and then the front middle, tight. And then the last one we're going to do is all 4 corners. So I'm going to start with the top left, get that one tight, then the top right, excuse me, we're going to go diagonal, front right, that one tight, and then we'll do the back right, and then diagonally the front left. That one's tight. So just running my finger across, make sure they all feel like they're kind of recessed in about the same. That looks pretty darn good. Check the hot end cables. Let's make sure the cables from the hot end aren't in contact with the heat bed. Lower manually the x-axis all the way down until the nozzle is almost touching the heat bed in case the pinch sensor touches the bed before the nozzle. Move it up slightly. Ensure there's a gap between the screw and the heat bed. Ensure there's a gap between the screw and the heat bed and the surface of the hot end cable. The gap should be 2 to 3 millimeters. The steel sheet will add another 1. So we want to make sure that the I'm gonna try and get this little camera. It'll help me actually too. So let's see if I can get this little camera here. So there we go. Let's bring it down as level with the heat bed as I can. There we go. So there's the hotbed, the heat bed cabling cover that I just installed a little bit ago. And what we want to do now is get this the x-axis carriage down on the Z. Basically, what we're looking for, if you look in the picture there, you'll see that the cables should not be. So I'm going to slide it all the way over. There we go. So by the time the extruder gets close to, yeah, see, mine's got a problem because my cables are touching already, and my extruder head is nowhere close to the. So you can see in the camera there that they are already touching, and my nozzle was nowhere close to the. The heat bed. Sorry, like just brain fart there. So what it says to do now is to take the extruder cable out of the heater block extruder cables, push them up into the printer. So let's try that again. That's a lot better. Yep. It is now. You really can't see on the camera because it kind of looks like they're touching on the camera, but looking underneath here,
It is just not touching the cover, and the extruder head is almost on the hotbed, the heat bed. And if I push it down, I can push it down, and now it's touching, and the wire's touching. So the extruder head and the wires touch at the same time. And you got to think we're going to be putting a spring steel sheet on here, so that's going to give us another millimeter of lift there. I'll double check it once I get the spring steel sheet on there, but I'm comfortable with that for now. So let's move on to the rest of this assembly for chapter whatever we're on, 6 or whatever it is. The following steps, please provide the 24-volt power supply, the M4 times 10 screw. So those were some of the last screws that were in here. So the M4, let me switch back to overhead. There we go. Get this little camera out of the way here. Go. So we've got these pan head, round head, whatever you want to call them, screws. There we go. 2 of those. And then we're going to need M4 times 10R screw with dome head. And then M3 times 10 screw, which I believe I threw into this kit over here. So let's go ahead and grab 2 out of here. Got my box of holding again. M3 times 10. M3 times 10 and M3 times 10. Perfect. And then our power supply. So now I need to be looking at the back side of my printer. Again, trying to be very careful with all these wires floating around everywhere now. So now on the side with the Prusa sticker, you can just barely see in the overhead. You can see it pretty good in the overhead camera there. We've got that. We have our 2 pre-installed, well, what we installed earlier, the T-nuts and the extrusions right here. This is for the old power supply unit type. And then we're also going to be using the 2 larger holes that you can't see on camera that are pre-drilled into the frame. The M4 screws are going to go into that and into 2 holes that are on the power supply. So it says to start with, so locate that, place the PSU on the frame and secure it with the M4 times 10R screws. So I'm just going to kind of feel it out there. There it is. There it is. Oh, I gotta remember to switch my bit back on my driver. There's another hole, there it is. I'm doing this blind on this side. Go. Switch this bit back now. I could get it into the driver all the way. There we go. Alright. You know what? Why am I doing that the weird way? Oh, that's why you want to be careful. Just almost knocked my screws off the table. Luckily I've got a ton extra, but still. You know what? Go to this. Gonna use the Allen wrench, the bigger one that comes with the round head for this. Luckily this driver kit wasn't expensive, otherwise I'd be a little bit more peeved about the quality of the bit heads. Won't review it or anything, just not happy with it. And then slide the PSU holders underneath the PSU cover. So we're going to kind of turn this back around. Be careful, not knock our screws, almost knock our screws off the table again.
cable doesn't want to work for us there. There we go. So let's go ahead and pull all of our cabling out of the way here for a sec. There we go. So let me get our nuts on the opposite sides there and get those aligned. And then I don't want to screw them in all the way yet. I'm going to do that. Which I probably already screwed in all the way. It's okay. These M3x10 screws go into the T-nuts, again, that we installed, I believe, all the way back in chapter 1. There we go. Yeah, driver looks good here. So now that we've got that all in there, we can go through and just ensure they're all tightened up. Remember, you're going plastic to metal, so don't over tighten. Just to the plastic, and then another, 45, 90 degrees. I am going to, because this is all metal, I'm going to make sure this one's nice and tight. You really can't over tighten these too much because it's all metal against metal against metal. But again, you can. Just be careful. Use common sense. But you don't want any resonance either, because any resonance will cause unnecessary noise. All right. So we have got the power supply unit now installed. Slightly harder chapter, but we have 10%. We need to keep more for the next. So slide this out of the way. Again, telling us to have some gummy bears. Not going to argue with the instructions. One of the key points that it has here is do not place the spring steel sheet on the bed yet. Wait for the instructions in the wizard during the calibration process. So let's complete that guide. I am not going to get into the electronics assembly tonight. It's already almost 1 a.m. here on the East Coast of the USA. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop here for now. It has been a pleasure. I will continue this probably a week from now, where hopefully I'll be able to button this all up. All that's really left to do is electronics and wire routing anyway. If I'm not mistaken, step 8. Let's go back to the catalog. Nope. There it is. Yep. Step 8 is the last step. So that's what we will do next week, and hopefully get her up and running and getting a practice test or practice print going, calibration test. Make sure we got it all done right, and then possibly even troubleshoot anything that's not done right. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this is a shorter stream than I normally do. About an hour, maybe an hour and a half shorter than I normally do. But I'm going to sign off for tonight. So if you like this kind of content, you like what I do here, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing. Turn on those notifications if you want to be notified whenever I go live. I pretty much only do live streams. The only time I've done a pre-recorded stream is when I'm editing a live stream that crashed multiple times, which I still have two to catch up on. I just haven't had time to edit video. That's why I do live streams. I don't have time to edit video. Live streams are just live. Plus, I'm human. I make mistakes. I like for other people to realize that people make mistakes. But anyway, so I hope you learned something. Again, if you liked it, hit that like button. If you don't like it, dislike. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell for notifications. Other than that, you guys and girls have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining me. Be kind to each other. Hug each other more. All those nice, beautiful things. Use your turn signals, or don't. You don't have to listen to me. But have a great night. Thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you guys later.